Saturday, we might have took an L on the field, but thanks to Syracuse, we still ended up with a win for the day, heading to the ACC Championship game.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can follow us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens or at LO_Clemson for Locked On Clemson. Hey, thanks so much for making it here and joining us on today's episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are a credentialed media member for the Clemson Tigers, where when we can, we get down there the football, basketball, baseball games to cover with the press conferences, sit on media row, and enjoy it all with that. Thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. After you listen to this podcast, make sure you check out one of the other amazing podcasts with Locked On Podcast Network, just like the Locked On ACC show that dives into all things ACC. Here on Locked On Clemson, we are all sports, all passion, all of the time, where we're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is December 3rd. We have a great episode with a lot to talk about today, from heading to the ACC Championship game against SMU to signing day for the next 3 years and hitting on some things on the hardwood, talking about Clemson basketball and the men's team. Going to be a great day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Saturday, we might have lost to South Carolina. We talked about it yesterday, but we still won. Loss to South Carolina hurts. Obviously, in that rivalry game, anytime you're playing a rival, it hurts to lose. Sometimes that game on a bad year, on a bad season, Clemson had a lot of bad seasons early in the 2000s. That game can make or break a season. You can go 4 wins of the season, but if you beat the rival, it makes a lot of difference. Like it creates this, it was an all right year. We ended up beating South Carolina, right? Obviously, with this past Clemson seasons, with how it's been, national championship runs, having great years, undefeated a couple times, one loss a couple times, making it to the playoffs for so many years in a row. That really hasn't been the feel for Clemson in a while, but there's still a lot of momentum. There's still a lot of energy. There's still a lot of upside and downside when you beat your rival. It feels great to beat South Carolina. It hurts like crazy to lose to South Carolina. And the game on Saturday, it hurt. That loss 100% hurt. But thanks to Syracuse upsetting Miami, Clemson fans could still leave Saturday heading into Sunday with a positive outlook because we're able to head on to the ACC Championship game. The way that the ACC is structured for championship game, it is the top 2 teams head to that championship game. And the way that Clemson's season went, we lost 1 game in the ACC, which was really nice. We lost to Louisville in a pretty rough game, one that we didn't show out, didn't play our best game by far. But because of the structure and because Syracuse beat Miami, we ended up going in. We are going to the ACC Championship game to face SMU. If you want to hear more about that Syracuse-Miami game, make sure you join over on Locked On Canes or Locked On Syracuse. You get to hear Alex Dono over with Locked On Miami, the Locked On Canes show. He does a great job. Or you can hear Jackson talk about it on Locked On Syracuse. They both had a great talk and great walkthrough of what that game looked like and how it meant and what caused the outcome of that. But overall, it was a great game. Syracuse won a tight one against Miami, high-scoring game. Some bad play calls, maybe a bad decision to settle for a field goal by Miami late in the game, but we won't get into that. The biggest thing is this. Thanks to that Syracuse upset, we now control our destiny. There's something really nice about being able to be the people that decide your future. How the college football playoffs work now is the top 5 if you win your conference, you make it to the playoffs. The Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and ACC, if you win your conference, you're an automatic bid. Right now, Clemson's ranked 18th in the latest college football playoff rankings. What does that mean? That means we're not getting in the playoffs unless we win our ACC Championship game. So our destiny is in our own hands. If we win, we're in the playoffs. If we lose, we are not. That's nice. There's honestly something refreshing to that because in this day and age, there is a little bias towards the ACC, right? Look at last year. Florida State went undefeated undefeated, and they still ended up not making the college playoffs. Granted, it was only 4 teams last year, and some people attribute that to losing their quarterback, losing a big portion of their offense. Jordan Travis was outstanding last year, and so they lost him due to injury. People thought, oh, of course they didn't make it. They lost their quarterback, but they went undefeated. The undefeated ACC champions were left out of the playoffs. There's some kind of bias there. There's even you can see it now for this year where SMU has had a great year. It's their first year into the ACC, and I think they're getting a lot of recognition because people didn't really realize how good SMU is. First of all, they got a ton of money. I believe I should have had this number, and I apologize for not having the specific number, but I believe it's somewhere like 7 or 8 of the top 25 richest people are either married to or an alumni of SMU. They got money. Like they can spend the money. That's why they have a good team. They're able to pay the NIL now. They're able to support the players. They're able to put some money on the field, which provides a lot of talent. And so SMU has had a great year. They had a bad loss. There's no getting around that. They did have a bad loss, but they had a really good year. Now, a lot of college professional reporters are saying no matter what happens in the ACC championship game, the ACC is only going to be represented by one school. If SMU wins, I agree with that decision. Miami, I think, is on the bubble. I could see them getting in. I could see them getting left out. They had a couple bad losses to Georgia Tech and to Syracuse. So I could see that not even appearing in your conference championship game. But SMU, if Clemson goes in and we win in Charlotte, we beat SMU, there's no way SMU should be left out. They've had too good of a year. If that's the case, you're punishing them for losing an extra game that some teams are making into the playoffs that aren't even having to play. For instance, Tennessee right now, a lot of people are saying Tennessee is going to make the college football playoffs. They're not in the SEC championship game, but yeah, they're still almost a lock for the playoffs. There's a little bit of bias with the ACC. With that bias, it is really nice to be able to control our own destiny. We don't have to worry about if people are going to make the right decision to get us to get in. It's not like March Madness where it's up to a committee. No, this year, how it worked out, we win, we're in. We lose, we go home. And honestly, if we lose to South Carolina, which we did, and now we follow that up and lose to SMU in the conference championship game, we don't deserve to be in. We don't deserve to have a chance to make it to the college football playoffs. But if we go in and we win, it don't matter if we deserve it or not. We get into a spot. Some people would say we don't deserve that. Some people would say we do deserve a spot. I can see either way. Honestly, I would probably lean to this year. We don't really deserve a spot in the college football playoffs because I think there's a chance we get in there and we play a top talented team and our defense doesn't show up. We have bad play calling. We have bad decision making from QB Kate Klubnik. There's a chance we go in there and get absolutely embarrassed. There's also a chance we go in there and we shock the world and make a run. So it's up on the tables, but based on the year we've had, based on the year we had last year and how we've followed that up this year, there's been growth, but I don't know if we fully deserve a spot in the playoffs. But that doesn't matter because now we control our own destiny, and that is a great spot to be in. If you are a Clemson Tiger fan, you should feel relieved that if we make the playoffs, which how amazing would it be to be able to make the first 12-team college football playoffs? That'd be awesome. With how we've been one of the teams that have dominated the 4-team playoffs, we should be there, right? It makes sense for us to be in that first inaugural 12-team playoff format, but we don't have to worry about a committee. We don't have to worry about people making decisions. We don't have to worry about the eye test. We don't have to worry about ACC bias. All we have to worry about is if we can win on the field on Saturday, if we can beat a very talented SMU team, if we can make that win, all that matters is we win that game and we're in the playoffs. It's a great spot to be in. It's exciting. Later this week, we're going to dive into more of this preview of what that game's going to look like. What do we need to do to win? What do we need to do to upset SMU? On Friday, we're going to be joined by Billy Inbody from On3 SMU. He has a podcast called After the Stings. It is all about a podcast devoted to SMU. He does a great job over there. He's going to be joining the show on Friday to dive in a preview of that SMU Clemson game. It's going to be great. But as important as Saturday is for Clemson football, it's not the only important day this week. As a National Early Signing Day, the window opens tomorrow on Wednesday and runs through Friday. And Clemson, we got a little bit to worry about when it comes to our recruiting. So let's talk about that a little bit. From the court and the field of the crowd, Being able to be at a live basketball game, NBA or college, is just amazing. Tonight, Clemson plays Kentucky, and we can't wait to be there on the hardwood floor. But no matter if you're looking for games, if you want to go to a game, the best place to go to is Game Time. Game Time has tickets for all events, concert, and shows, not just sports. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. For me, tonight, I'm not working media when I go to Kentucky. I'm actually sitting in the stands, sitting with the fans, excited about that. And Game Time is the place to go for tickets. They just make everything so simple. It's not too late. If you want to go to the game tonight, it's not too late. Head over to Game Time, get your tickets. They have super deals that talk about different tiers of ticket values. It's so simple to walk through and get your tickets. Use the app. It lets you customize your spot. It lets you inspire what you want to do. It has curated deals to help you find the best price on tickets. It also lets you get a panoramic view of wherever you want to sit. Game Time is the best place to get your tickets. So go ahead, download the Game Time app now, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Signing day is tomorrow, and the Tigers should be worried. Look, signing day, so it is kind of, if you're not aware of the signing day and college football signing day, let me give you a little bit of history of it. This year is the earliest that the early signing day has in history. It's usually later in December, but this year it starts on Wednesday, December 4th, tomorrow, and ends on Friday, the 6th. It has never been that early. And honestly, if you rewind, if you go back in time 10 years ago, say, let's just imagine we're in 2014, you really have to wait until February in order for that national signing day, because the national signing day is in February. But in 2017, they altered what the format was, and now we have a national early signing day window that opens up in December. This year, it's this week, the 4th through the 6th. And slowly, in the past, since 2017, slowly more and more recruits are no longer waiting for the national signing day. They're now making their decisions. They're signing. They're making that hard commit where they're going to what school they're going to attend in that national early signing day window. And honestly, more and more and more are not only doing it in the early window, they're doing it on the first day. That's why a lot of people have started deeming the first day of the early national signing day window as National Signing Day. It's officially not, but a lot of people deem it that title. What does that mean? That means tomorrow is a huge day for the Clemson Tigers. It is a massive day for our football team, for our fans, for our team, for our players. It's huge because tomorrow is the day that majority of the players for the 2025 class that aren't signed yet, or tomorrow's the day that they're going to sign for it. Right now, Clemson, we have a good recruiting. We are known for a great recruiting school. That is one of Dabo's strengths. That's one of Dabo's talents, is that recruiting. But this year seems to be a little bit different. There seems to be a little bit of problem when it comes to Clemson's recruiting. As of right now, if you're going through 24/7 sports, which is where we usually lean on when it comes to recruiting news, that kind of aspect with prospects, commits, signings, all that kind of deals. If you look at where we are with our 25 class, we're ranked 29th in the nation as of right now, based on our hard commits. We have one 5-star. If you look at on three, we don't have any 5-stars. We have one 5-star with Amari Adams, a defensive line. Got a couple 4-stars. Some of our highlighters is Braden Jacobs, Gideon Davis, and Marquise Henderson, Ari Watford. All of those are really good players. Right now, we do have 4 of the top 210 people with pretty good recruit. But what our recruits are right now are nothing as far as commits as where we usually are. Usually at this point, we have a lot more high-profile recruits. And the biggest worrisome is this. Not only do we not have a lot of great recruits, not only do we not have a lot of top 100 recruits, we're only sitting at 2 top 100 recruits with Amari Adams and Braden Jacobs. We've seen a lot of top players that are originally committed to Clemson actually end up decommitting and commit to somewhere else. They haven't signed yet, obviously not our national signing day, but they are decommitting. In fact, let's just walk through those 7 because they are some high-profile players that have committed to Clemson and then backed out. Now they're committed to somewhere else. The first is Isaiah Campbell. Isaiah Campbell is the 33rd ranked player in the nation, a great defensive line from North Carolina, right outside the Durham area. He originally committed to Clemson. Recently, he backed out and said, "I'm no longer interested in Clemson," and now he's between Tennessee and his home state, home college that he's always been a fan of with North Carolina. Committed to Clemson, backed out. Now is between two others. You got Tay Harris, who is a great safety. He was originally committed to Clemson, backed out, and now he's in an in-conference school and he's committed to Georgia Tech. Grayson Littleton, he was one of the first recruits in this class to commit to Clemson, committed to Clemson. Now he backed out and he followed another player that already transferred out and he's committed to Texas. Bryson Davis, who is a great edge rusher, one of the best in this class, committed to Clemson, decommitted, and now is committed to Duke. Jordan Young was a great athlete, probably a safety. He's the most recent, committed to Clemson, backed out, now is committed to the Michigan. Quarterback Blake Hebert. This is one I'm not upset about. I'm not too upset about this situation, but he was committed to Clemson a short period of time, backed out, now is committed to Notre Dame. And the seventh is Jalen Beckley. Jalen is a great offensive tackle. I was really excited about him. I think he's undervalued. He's rated as a 3-star right now, 97th as his inside linebacker, number 196 in the Texas State. I think he's a little underrated, but he's a great offensive lineman. Committed to Clemson, decommitted, and now he's committed to Oklahoma State. Out of those 7, 4 of them are a top 150 player in the nation for this class. 3 of them are top 75. You've got 4 of them are top 20 at their position, 3 of them top 10, 2 of them, or one of them was the third best at their position. You have so many great players here that were committed to Clemson and then backed out and went somewhere else. What does that mean for Clemson? Here's what it means. I don't know if you know this. If you followed Clemson sports, you probably do. Clemson was the only non-service, non-military school in FBS that has not had a transfer. The only one that has not had a football transfer. What does that mean? That means we're still focusing on recruiting. Dabo doesn't want to get into the transfer portal. He doesn't want to get into that battle. He has different reasons. We've talked about it in previous episodes. You can go back and listen to those. We'll talk about it more this offseason. But Clemson has not really got into the transfer battle. They've really stuck with, we're going to grow our own players, we're going to recruit great players, and that's going to allow us the freedom to kind of go through and get who we want, to kind of spend all our time, our effort, our money, our energy on getting good recruits. Usually, we've been great at this. We've had great recruiting classes. We've pulled in great players. Now, with the change in the NIL becoming a big deal, it seems like Dabo is not only struggling in the transfer area, now it seems like he's struggling in the recruiting area too. If we're not going to be good at transfers and now we're going to start struggling in recruiting, that's not a recipe for success. That is a recipe for a disaster. Now, this creates even more worried. If you're going to be bad at transfers, honestly, I wish we got some transfers. I think there's players out there that could have helped our team this year, but we didn't even go after. If you're not going to be good at transfers, it costs some worry, but not a whole lot of worry because we still had that piece of having great recruits. Now it seems like the trend for Clemson is not getting transfers as well as not getting the best of recruits. That's worrisome. That's a situation where we should be worried. Tiger fans, we should be worried because now we're seeing this trend where we're not getting the best players. If you want to compete at the highest level, it's simple. You got to have some of the best talent. And now we're not getting the best talent through the transfer portal, and we're losing a lot of the best talent through the recruiting process. That is a situation that's got to be fixed. 2025, I'm really worried about our incoming players. Luckily, we still have a lot of really talented players from this squad that'll still be around. We're not losing too many players, but we've got to be able to fix this. 2026, we've got to be able to fix this. I would love to see next year's class include some transfers. Hopefully that happens. Either way, make sure you're following along. Tomorrow is a big day for Clemson football. Make sure you follow us over on Twitter at LockedOnClemson, LO_Clemson. We're going to be posting every single recruit that signs with Clemson, whether they're committed already or maybe we get some surprises that aren't committed. But we're going to be posting all that. So make sure you follow us over on Twitter so you can keep up to date. We will keep you posted with every single person that signs with Clemson. Football has a lot to talk about, but there's another sport that's gaining some traction and momentum for the Tigers as well, and that's men's basketball. They got a huge game tonight against Kentucky. We're going to talk about it right after this.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. Yes, you heard that correctly. All you have to do is bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Yes, live bets. So all you got to do is head to the website and go to fanduel.com. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So get in on the action right now because it is right there for you, waiting for the taking. So just visit fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL.
A Clemson upset over Kentucky would be absolutely huge for Brad Brownell's squad. Clemson's coming off a great basketball season last year where we made it to the Elite Eight. Honestly, it was a season where it was a Cinderella run. We looked really bad when it came to the ACC tournament, had an ugly loss in that first game of the ACC tournament. Our season was hit with misses and matches and great wins and bad losses. There was ugly losses like the overtime loss at home against Georgia Tech. There was great wins like the win at Chapel Hill. It was a season full of ups and downs. Ended up being a great season as we had some upsets into the NCAA tournament, making it all the way to the Elite Eight. It was a great year. Brad comes into this year with his 15th squad year leading the Clemson basketball team. Some people love him. Some people don't like him. Some people call for him to be fired. Some people call for him to lifetime extension. I'm in the middle of that. I'll be honest, before the beginning of last year, I did not think he was the guy for the job. There was moments where I definitely thought that we should move on. There was other people like Greg Buckner, like the coach from McNeese State. There was people that I thought we could bring in to be better than Brad. He proved me wrong, but here's where I'm at now. I'm not at a point where I'm like, yes, he's the coach for us for sure. I'm not at a point where I think we should get rid of him. I think this is a year that is a huge telling year for Brad Brownell. And I say that because if there's one thing you can say about Brad Brownell's team and about his history and his tenure with Clemson, is he's inconsistent. He hasn't put together good seasons back to back yet. He's only made the tournament a handful of times. One of those was the team that he came in from, took over from Oliver Purnell, that made it to the tournament the year before he came, and they made it to the year after they came. So I'm hit or miss. I think this is a big telling year for Brad if he can be consistent. But looking at the Tigers so far this season, unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of chance this year to talk about the Tigers based on, as we talked about, that 2-month hiatus that we've gone through. But so far this year, I wouldn't say we've had a great year. I wouldn't say we've had a disappointing year. I think we're still figuring out who we are. We're still figuring out what this team can do. It's been a team of comebacks. It's been a team where we allow bad teams to stick with us in the first half and then just take off on them in the second half. It's been a year with some hit or misses. I don't think we really know the potential upside, downside, middle. We don't know where this team's going to go. This game against Kentucky, I think, is going to be telling for us. So far, we're sitting right now at 7-1, won comfortably against Charleston Southern, St. Francis, Eastern Kentucky. A couple of those games got closer than we wanted to at times, but we ended up winning comfortably. The lowest victory in those three was by 13 points to Eastern Kentucky. Went on the road to our first road game against Boise State. That's a game we should have won. We were into that game for a long time. We were in it. We were a part of it. And then second half, we just struggled. We let them run off. We let them take the lead. We let them just really outplay us. And so we lost that game. That was a disappointing loss. Then we went on, and we've played 4 games since then. 3 of those should be easy wins. One was an easy win that I thought was going to be a little bit more challenging. But we played against Radford, which we won comfortably. But San Francisco, we won comfortably. Penn State, that was a good game. That was a really good game where we came out late and really just took off later on. Won by 8 points against Penn State. And then our last game was Florida A&M. That was another game that was truly first half we played to our opponent. We are a much better squad than Florida A&M. First half you couldn't tell. Second half we came off and absolutely dominated. I think the first half we went into halftime up by 6-7 points, something like that. Second half we were up by 20-something points at some times, and we ended up winning by almost 30 points. So really a dominant second half. But we have a big game on the line tonight that we're going to be at. Can't wait to be down there in Little John for this game as Clemson hosts Kentucky in the ACC SEC Challenge. It's going to be a really, really good year, or a really, really good game, excuse me. But when you look at our so far team, looking back to what we've done so far this year, my biggest critique of this Clemson squad, and we're going to talk more about this as the season progresses, but it feels like at some points Brad is coaching this team as if it's the same team as last year. Last year, our team was led by PJ Hall and Chase Hunter, a guard center combo, where those two really, they were a tandem. They were great players. They fed off each other. We had a great supporting cast with Jack Clark, who's no longer there. Alex Hemingway really didn't play due to injuries, but Ian Shefflin, of course, had some big minutes. Joe Girard was a massive, massive talent for this team last year, hitting the threes, who's no longer there. Last year's team was very different than this year's team. It was much more a blend between bigs and smalls taking over. Every game, it could have been one of those three. PJ Hall, Ian Shefflin, Chase Hunter, or Joe Girard. One of those four was going to take over and lead us in these games. This year, we don't have that. This year, we don't really have those top 3-4 players that are going to lead us. Instead, we have more of a team-wide focus. We have two big players with Chase Hunter still there, Ian Shefflin, who can lead us. But last year, we had a lot of good big play. This year, we're not having a lot of that. Ian Shefflin's still good. I'm not discrediting him at all. We have a really good guard team. We have a guard-heavy team. We have Chase Hunter. We have Jaden Zachary. We have some team players that are playing really, really well this year. But it's mainly our guards are going to be what lead us. Allow Ian Shefflin to play cleanup, get those boards, get some second chance points, 100%. Still let him back down and focus. But so far, it feels like our team, if we're going to, our key to success is going to be having really good guard play. We do have a transfer center, our starting center, Victor Locken, who came in from Cincinnati. He's had some bad games. He's had some good games. I believe he's averaging not a lot of points, not a lot of rebounds every game, but he's going to have some great games, but he doesn't seem like he's going to be a player to lead us. It feels like Brad is coaching this team at some points like he still has a team from last year. He'll have Victor Locken outside who can make threes, but nowhere near like PJ Hall could. He'll have a lot of ISOs down low where PJ Hall could take on really anybody in an ISO situation down low and score because he's a special guy. We don't have that this year. I don't trust Ian Shefflin to ISO in the down low in the paint and make a bucket on anybody. I don't trust Victor Locken to do that. I've seen Victor Locken miss layups with a guard guarding him multiple times so far this season. So my biggest critique so far is Brad's got to realize we have a different team. We don't have the same identity that we did last year. He can't coach this team with the same identity that we had last year. So I'm excited for tonight. I think tonight's going to be a big telling point on this identity. If Brad can truly embrace this new team, embrace the new talent, the new players, the young guys that are getting great minutes, I think it's going to be good. Kentucky is by far going to be our biggest challenge. And so far this year, Kentucky has looked pretty good. They are sitting undefeated at 7-0. They've really only had one big win, which was against Duke, and that was a great game. If you missed that game early on the 12th of November, it was a great game. That's one that I've already went back and watched highlights of a couple different times. That was a great game. Other than that, they beat teams that they should be. Georgia State, Jackson State, Western Kentucky, Bucknell, Wright State, Lipscomb. They've beat teams that they should. When you look at Kentucky's players and who's playing well for them, they've got a pretty guard-heavy team. They've got a couple really good talented forwards, a couple really good talented players, right? But when it comes down to it, their guards are where they're scoring. They have 6 players right now averaging double-digit points. 4 of those are guards. Their top 4 scorers are all guards. Not all 4 of them start. Otega Owe, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's their leading scorer with 14.9 points, or 15.9 points. Right after him is Kobe Bray, who's 14.1. They've got a very balanced team, but honestly, I feel good about this game. I'm not saying we're 100% going to come out and win, but I feel good because it feels like we match up pretty well with them. It feels like our guards, if we can truly lean into that guard play, can match up pretty well with them. Chase Hunter's great at defending guards. Jaden Zachary is leading the team in steals. He's great at defending guards. So with all that being said, Kentucky's got a great team. I mean, they're ranked one of the top teams in the nation for a reason. It's going to be a tough battle, but tonight's really going to show us, can Brad coach this team with a new identity? Can Brad coach this team? Can he truly embrace this new squad and not treat them like last year's, but treat them like the new squad that they are? I'm excited about it. Honestly, I think if we hit our shots, if we limit our turnovers and we capitalize on the few mistakes Kentucky's going to make, I think we got a chance. The crowd's got to show up. Little John is always electric. We haven't seen a big crowd this year so far, but hopefully tonight we're going to see a great energy. It's a late start. It starts at 9:30 Eastern tonight. It's going to be a great game. So we're excited to see. I think tonight's really going to show us what this potential of this Clemson squad this year can be. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs keep it real. They bring you the truth about your favorite ACC team and where they stand in the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Later this week, we're going to keep you updated with how signing day goes, recap the Kentucky basketball game, and have our preview episode of the matchup against SMU for the ACC Championship Game this weekend. Let us know your thoughts on today's topics. Follow us over on Twitter at my profile at I am John Bivens, at Locked On Clemson's profile, LO_Clemson, or send us an email. We'd love to have conversations with you about any of this stuff. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast at, or on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every day we can be your first listen here on Locked On Clemson Podcast. Make sure to check out other podcasts from the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow in the next episode. But until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.